it down right now. SEC stories every play, every time with Rob Browne breaking it all down. Yeah. SEC Sideline Sports on my mind. Rob Browne calling game time, highlight shine, executive mind. Brendan Martin keeping Rob in line. Like, subscribe, share it, tell everyone. Sideline Sports, y'all come back real soon. Same place, same time, same tune.
All right. How about that band, Brendan Martin and the Boys in the Garage? The garage, as Nigel says, the British term.
Come on, boys. Come on. Let's get up. I paid for the whole damn 60 seconds. Come on.
I love it. I love it. Hey.
Can't get this AI to do anything anymore.
I love this. Hey, look, do us a favor. Rob Browne in Memphis, Brendan Martin in Ocala, Florida. Take a picture with your cell phone of those QR codes. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Share, like, and subscribe. You have no idea how much that means to us. And, man, we've got a great line. Brendan keeping me in line. You're right. I love this guy. He's
keeping you in line is hard to do.
But he's like an older brother, although he's younger than me. But he's incredible. But let me tell y'all something. Got a great lineup today. Everett Hoagland, federal attorney in the public defender's office in Chattanooga now.
We got a federal attorney here today?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A federal public defender.
I'm sorry ahead of time.
Yeah. He's going to be talking about what's going on with the NCAA and another case of an Alabama basketball player wanting to come back, been ruled he can, to play more college after flirting with the NBA and the draft and all. We got Coach Matt Dean, John Hartwell, College Sports Solutions, Matt up at Rhodes College. Second half, Gary Harris, Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. Look, the hour of power is underway. First off, Everett got a ton of respect for what you do. We have mutual friend Mary Kay German. I know I have friends in public defenders and the prosecutor's office that my grandfather was a judge and taught law at Memphis. And I love what you do because you're the closest thing other than a police officer that we ever see to the U.S. Constitution. So thanks for what you do. You don't realize how much importance you bring to the table till someone needs you. And Mary Turner recommended you, and the May family, Waller and Guy and everybody love her. She's been on several times talking about legal matters. So rather than us try to grab at straws, I would rather have you talk about the ruling by Judge Jim Roberts in Alabama about an Alabama basketball player coming back and make sense out of it. We won't keep you that long. I know you got a big day.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on. I'll try to keep it as plain English as possible because I think that's what's important when we talk about some of these legal issues. And at its core, the case that we have or that we're discussing about Charles Bediako, it's asking whether the NCAA's eligibility rules are being applied in a consistent and rational way. Bediako briefly pursues a professional opportunity. He signs a two-way contract, never appears in an NBA game. Yeah. And now he's seeking to come back to college basketball. And the NCAA's denied that request, put out statements saying they don't believe that he's eligible or that he's ineligible specifically. Yeah. But they're permitting eligibility for players with extensive professional experience abroad who never signed any NBA contracts. We're talking about I think it's Nanaji from Baylor who's playing basketball there. They've said he is eligible because they've made this distinction that by playing sports overseas and being paid for it, he's not a professional athlete. But by signing a two-way contract with the G League here in America, taking American dollars, somehow that makes Bediako a professional and Nanaji not. And now that's a distinction that may exist on paper for the NCAA, but that is a distinction that is becoming harder and harder to justify, especially in this current NIL environment. I mean, you have a quarterback for Oregon who's going to make potentially $10 million next year on a contract. And the NCAA doesn't have a problem with that. But somehow Bediako making, at best, probably $50,000, $60,000 in a couple of seasons playing in the G League, that somehow he is banned forever. And I think the problem is that the NCAA is running into the fact that we don't live in a black and white world. That's what they want it to be. They've made these rules. But courts know that we live in a gray zone. That's every day of my life. That's every day of the judge's life. And so courts are having to step in, and they aren't stepping in because players are wanting special treatment. Yeah. They're stepping in because the NCAA can't explain its own distinctions anymore.
Yeah.
And so basically what has happened in Tuscaloosa is Bediako's filed a lawsuit. He's asking to be eligible to play, that he'll be irreparably harmed if he's not. And Judge Roberts has granted a temporary restraining order allowing him to play. Now, that does not mean that he's won, and this is it forever. There'll be a hearing. I believe it's set next week on the 27th, where more extensive testimony and things can be heard. But at this point, I expect it to continue to go the same way, because that's what's happening in a lot of these local jurisdictions.
Everett, Matt Dean has coached women's basketball 16 years as the head coach at Rhodes College in Memphis, now working again with the women, also coached with Hall of Famer Herb Hildegren at Rhodes College. He's got a son on the staff at Oregon football with Dan Lanning. So Matt Dean jumping here with Everett Hoagland from the Public Defender's Office, Federal Public Defender's Office in Chattanooga, Hamilton County. I've sold a lot of bonds, Hamilton County, Tennessee.
Hey, Everett, great information. I guess my question is, this opens up pretty much state by state. If you have a situation in a similar circumstance with a player that tested the waters, didn't get the result he or she desired, primarily he, and the NCAA, like you said, on paper has some rules, but it looks like they're being hindered case by case. We're not even talking about the Ole Miss case with Chambliss coming up. I know it's different eligibility because he's trying to get a 6th year. It just seems to me that if this stands, which the ruling looks like it could, it's going to be really tough sledding in the future for the NCAA, because this is going to happen in other cases. Is that correct?
Oh, that's absolutely correct. And it's going to continue to happen in local jurisdictions. Yeah. And the issue is, this is the monster that the NCAA has created. And this is the monster that's been created by not having any sort of federal guidelines, sort of federal law that control over this. So it's not a jurisdictional issue, but for now it is. And I think this is something that has to happen in order to get us to a situation where, we can kind of make this work and make it work across the board. And it's funny to me because it seems like, these things have been going on and it's been brewing and brewing, but now that it's Alabama, one of the premier, SEC, universities, then everybody's freaking out. There's a meltdown. But this is what has to happen to fix this, because until we do, this is what it's going to be.
I'm not sure you're familiar with the Duke case of the quarterback that is entering the portal, but then Duke is potentially suing him for breach of contract, because I think it was a multi-year deal. But then my question is, if these are not technically employees, do we really have contracts, and how does that work? You know what I'm saying? Or is it state by state?
Yeah, it's absurd is what it is.
Right,
if we're being honest, this idea that they're not employees because they're getting money from these outside funds or whatever. I mean, it's all fiction at this point. And what has happened is the NCAA's allowed players to be paid, which is great, and I think they should be. But they did so without any kind of formal structure to do that. And then we have these issues like Duke suing a player and whatever, which we can talk about the wisdom of that. I feel like that's like the old adage, if you sue your boss, you'll never have another one. So I'm not sure why players would want to go play at Duke at this point, but this is what's going to keep happening.
Well, I remember a similar conversation in college when I was at Auburn about graduating. My parents said, we gave you a deadline. If you go past that, you can stay in college, but you need to have the Marine Corps pay for it because we're done. And my sisters both got out in 4 years. I was redshirted twice, Everett. And I had a lot of friends at Alabama. Trust me, there were SAEs and Phi Gams. And I mean, we all did it somehow. All right, you're explaining this and putting it in the vernacular really well. Great questions from Coach Matt Dean. Now, Judge Jim Roberts is so highly respected within the state of Alabama. And I had a bunch of the Alabama guys from the legislature and lobbyists up here a couple of weeks ago. Some of them were up here hunting with us. They go fishing with us. Great man. They randomly choose you to rule on these cases. It's not like you seek them out. So right now, this is the second one. You opened up a Pandora's box. You mentioned that. Is this going to be a case? Remember, how many times have we been sitting around jokingly and said, I think I may have another year of eligibility there could be a flood of guys that didn't make it in the pros coming back. And then we're going to start having guys 30 plus, 35 years old playing college sports, like in baseball. Remember, they go for 6 or 8 years and come back.
I just checked. I have eligibility still. That's
What
where
sport?
I was
Soccer?
checking. Yeah, soccer. And and some field hockey. So.
That's right. Everett, where do we go from here?
That's a good question. I think what we need is some sort of congressional oversight, although it seems that at this point, Congress has their hands full and they're never going to agree on anything.
That's right.
I guess I really don't know. We're just going to have to see. And these things are going to keep happening in different jurisdictions like we've talked about. And we're going to keep having these conversations where people are like, oh, well, a Tuscaloosa judge decided this. And that's obviously he is a pro Alabama or whatever. And that's nonsense because first of all, these judges and these individuals are not going to risk their career or risk their integrity for a basketball game. And it's the same thing as, judges have kids. If I have a case where there's been a child abuse victim, then they're not going to recuse just because they have kids. They set their personal things aside. Yeah. I have no doubt that that's what Judge Roberts is doing. I have no doubt that that's what these other judges in other jurisdictions are doing. But they're just trying to keep it a fair playing field, and this is going to keep happening.
Matt?
I have one more question, Everett. In the old days before the NIL world, obviously we're talking about amateurism, right? But now if you're paying everyone, the reason I can see this argument is because everyone's getting paid. So what does it matter? Is the university going to admit this kid to their curriculum? If that's the case, they should probably be eligible if they haven't expired their college eligibility. It's crazy.
Yeah, amateurism is dead. And the longer that we keep pretending that it's not, the more we tend to cause a problem here because it's like, it's standing on two rocks in the middle of a river. I mean, you're eventually going to be swept away. And we have to have some rules. We have to have some guardrails or this will just continue in perpetuity because if it were about money, then all of these other kids wouldn't be able to play. So it's not about money for the NCAA when it comes to Bediako. It's about control. And I think that's what these local courts are trying to break a handle on is that the NCAA doesn't have control in the way they think they do.
Everett, sorry, Everett. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about and if you can't comment on it, I totally understand. But news out of Eastern District of Pennsylvania, the group of individuals being accused of rigging dozens of college basketball games in the U.S. and professional games. Have you heard of this story that's been in the news lately?
I have, and just based off of just my general rule, I'm not going to wade into talking about criminal stuff, but it's certainly, these are the kinds of things that, again, unless there's some kind of handle put on that will keep repeating as well.
Yeah, that's sort of my point it just feels like it lends itself to opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that, like I said, I'm not asking you to comment on it, but I just feel like we're going to potentially see more of this sort of thing.
We certainly could.
Well, back in the mid 85, 86, there was a guy named Norby Walters in the state of Alabama, and he was having conversations with some players at Auburn and Alabama. And I mean, they came down on that guy like rolling thunder. I don't know if he's still living or not, but I don't know whatever happened to him. But you're right. One thing that judges, grandfather was a judge. He said, you get amnesia when you go in the courtroom if you're on the jury. You cannot. All it matters is what are they being charged with. And I love how you made that point, and you don't want to talk about something again that could be a conflict. So before we let you go, I know you got a busy day. We definitely want to get you back. Thank you, Mary Turner, for making this happen. By the way, either one of y'all, I would want, if I got in trouble, I don't want to ever get in trouble. I'd
be happy to help.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. So the next step from here, we got the portal January 2nd to the 16th. Every day I'm getting stuff about more guys coming. I think Miami and Indiana got a few extra days because of the national title game. Tell people out there that are saying, college sports are ruined. They're not, but give people some hope and also talk about the difference in the NCAA. And I'm certainly not a lawyer. You are. You're an attorney with the federal government. But you've got to think about, they have no subpoena power, the NCAA. So everything is going to be circumstantial evidence for the most part to convict somebody. The second part is antitrust laws. That's all that really matters to the NCAA, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it is. And the issue really at this point, when we talk about these things specifically, is that there's just no modicum of fairness. There's nothing across the board that makes sense. Now, in terms of your first question, when we talk about, giving people some hope and saying college football or college sports is not ruined, I don't think it is, right? I mean, we have to think to ourselves, yes, it makes it difficult when players can hop around and do as they please to some degree, but that's what happens when these kids start getting paid, and they should. I mean, they make these universities hundreds of millions of dollars a year that they wouldn't make otherwise. I mean, you think about Alabama just in general, pre-Saban, if you look at enrollment numbers, if you look at things like that, I mean, those kids, it's been on their backs where they make this money. And so they should be paid. The problem is we have to have some sort of federal intervention. And I know there are plenty of people that don't want the federal government involved in many things, but when you have an issue this big, you're either going to get piecemeal rulings like we talked about, or you're going to crack down and say, hey, no, these are the rules federally. This is the federal government, and we're telling you what you can and can't do, instead of some toothless group like the NCAA, which is what they've become essentially by their own doing.
Yeah. But that's what I just don't understand. When I was playing with Grok the other day, I said, who's in charge of this whole thing? Like, and I joked at the question, but then I was like, it's really a pretty good question. Like, and the funny thing is Grok spit out Greg Sankey. So I don't know what's going on. So
that may be the answer.
You're muted, Rob.
More and more people are getting into the legal questions, and that's why it's so important to have you come on here and talk about this. I mean, you know what you can do with a bull's rear end, but I'd rather take my butcher's word for it if I want a T-bone. Tommy
exactly
Boy,
right.
Reference. But
I do.
You're making total sense of this. You don't want to have piecemeal rulings. And again, Judge Roberts happened to be the lucky guy to get to rule on this. Somebody had to do it, but it's going to be fun going forward. Will you join us again in a few weeks? Because I know there's going to be follow-up.
Absolutely. You just let me know anytime. I'd be happy to join.
Okay. How do people follow you? Do you ever put anything out just general on social or
yeah. I have a Twitter, and I think, gosh, I don't even remember what my handle is. I think. Oh, I got on to Twitter way back early in the days. I'm just Everett 14. So
Everett. All right. We'll tag you. How about that?
I appreciate that.
Hey man, have a great day. Thanks more than for sharing your time. Okay.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
All right. You bet. Guys, that's what we are so important to do. I talked with Mary Turner. She's a great attorney in Tuscaloosa. And, Judge Jim Roberts was named Judge of the Year in the state of Alabama this past year. And I talked to Judge Roberts. I know him. Great man. And they literally put in a computer these cases, and you are randomly selected. So there's none of this, hey, I want this case. You can't do that. I know another municipal judge, circuit judge in Tuscaloosa who rules on some big cases. And you know what he will absolutely never do? You could light him on fire. He will never talk about those decisions. Never. I mean, these guys, these are good. There's a lot of integrity with these people. So, Matt, jump back in. Great questions, by the way, Brendan, about pointing out what's going on. And you too, Matt.
I just am fascinated, guys, that we're at this point that we're talking about a person that was in the G League or considering pro players overseas. Yeah. The European money is okay, but the American money is not. I'm just fascinated because I live in a world that's much different, Brendan. I mean, I'm NCAA Division III. Really need a 30-plus ACT to get enrolled in my institution. So I don't deal in this at all. Now, my son does. The other day when Dante Moore decided to come back, I don't ask Tyler any dollars and cents, even if he knows. I don't want to know. I don't want to put him in a situation where I say something that shouldn't be out there.
Plausible deniability, that's called.
That's exactly right, Brendan. And I will tell you this, as someone who is related to someone that's on one of these staffs, until we fix this calendar, it's going to get crazier and crazier. When you have portal situations being made literally right before the kickoff of a national championship game, it's not a healthy environment.
Yeah, and here we are. How many more cases like this are we going to have? I mean, I read something where that Mr. Bediako said, had he known at the time all this was going on, why would he have ever left? This is what opens up possibilities of all these athletes that are out there in the G
Right.
League and the European League pouring back to college. I mean, hey, I used to have, and I still occasionally do if I drink enough, have nightmares that I'm one class shy of getting my college degree. You think about these people that go, I never finished, and they're in good shape and they're 40. Guy wants to go be a pitcher. How long did Phil Necro, the ancient mariner, 47? George Blanda, Kentucky football player, played in the NFL. He was 47 when he retired. Then he started doing light beer commercials. So I think there's no end to this. Everett Hoagland just pointed out a lot the truth of what's going on.
I don't know. I think the truth is in the middle with these things, Matt, and you can speak to this more than I can. Enrollment is an issue.
Yeah, it is.
And these things are a bigger issue. I don't think that college athletics gets into the academia of it as much because they don't want to touch it as much because it's like we don't know where colleges are going. There's speculation. There's going to be no more colleges. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I think there's a lot of speculation of the future of academia, and those kinds of things, which obviously is your fan base, which a lot of people on campus, a lot of people going to games, a lot of people buying stuff, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, Matt, did you feel like that sort of missed in a little bit of the dialogue here as to where does the sport go? Well, we divided sport and school back a long time ago when we made athletic associations and we started to carving out how money went to different parts of the school, and football got all this and everyone else got a little bit. So, I think is that just sort of, I think we're further down the road with that now. And I feel like, do we want, does the powers that be don't want to be the powers that be that want to let this thing implode and then start all over and have their own league? And because some of this just feels like there's too many smart people to be this stupid.
Brendan, you raised some really good points. And one of the things that we don't talk about this as a sports show is there's an enrollment cliff right now going on in a lot of institutions across the country. They are having a lot of challenges to get students enrolled. We're talking about the raising cost of higher education. And then really one of the things that was brought up, I think, by Everett was that these SEC schools enrollment actually rose because of the popularity. You look at Alabama, look at the applications to Alabama and the enrollment because of success of Nick Saban in those 2+ decades, right? Yeah. So we don't talk about the amount of colleges that have shut down across the country. A lot of them are small liberal arts colleges. That's the world I work in, guys.
Yeah.
And because of the rising cost of tuition, it's really been a challenge. At Rhodes, we've had in the last 5 years probably our hardest cycle in my 35 in terms of enrolling kids. Now, you can look at our tuition, room, and board costs and say, wow, there's a reason why. But at the end of the day, people used to value this product. They're not valuing the product as much. The people are going to trade schools. People are making different decisions and going to state schools. So it's really a changing landscape, guys. And for me, as someone who's at the tail end of my career, hoping to get in the media someday.
You're not at the tail end. You're just
in my academic career, I am.
Your broadcast career is bright and shiny.
Yes.
When you're done, you're going to have your own show.
I need a makeup artist. I need someone, Brendan, to produce a song for Dino, and I need a better lighting situation. I'm going to work on that in a year and a half. I promise you.
Give me a sentence about Dino, and I'll get our band to give you a hot song, brother.
I'm with you, brother.
Well, and you know what? This is something that we talked about. I've been hearing this for years from friends. The financial crisis, 07, 08, 09, the drop in the birth rate. I've been hearing this for years. In 26 and 27, they were predicting a dip in college enrollment. Now, if you look at Auburn's enrollment, Alabama's, it ain't hurting them.
No.
And Auburn has been pitiful in football for the last 5 years, but basketball has been good. But I looked at some stats. When Auburn won the title in 2010 against Oregon, from 2010 to 2017, the first 7 years of Dr. Bill Hardgrave, the dean of the College of Business, the Louder College of Business at Auburn at that time, increased 47%. After he left, within 3 years, it was up almost 70. And 2 years ago, they passed a historic milestone at Auburn, more students in the College of Business than in the College of Engineering. That has never happened. Now, but you do look at the Rhodes product, and I'll vouch for this. It's liberal arts, but these kids are getting out and going into law school, medical school. They're working in the bond business. We've had 7 interns over the years from Rhodes. Every one of these kids, They work their ass off. And I told them, I said, I'm not big on advice or rules, but I am on structure. When you get to work every morning, show up early, answer your phone or your text. If I call you, don't blow me off. Just be quick answers, but show up and say, what can I do to help? And those kids all got hired. There was a fight over them. So that product, I'll speak for it. Wherever you go to school, the textbooks are all the same. Question is, how deep do you want to dig into them? Coach Matt Dean, proud native son of one of the 4 Quad Cities, Davenport, Iowa. Can you name the other 3?
Well, that would be Moline, Rock Island, East Moline. Beddorf is kind of like the 5th. But
yeah,
the reality is, Rob, one of the things that you mentioned, and Brendan, you know this because you've been to multiple institutions and areas of the country. But the reality is, when Auburn won that national championship, people wanted to be around that Saturday experience, from the tailgate, from the fraternity sorority parties, from the game itself, from the post game. And they know they can go to a lot of places and get a great degree, but you want to be around that environment. I'll tell you another thing that's changed, I think, is just we don't talk about it, but how gambling has influenced sports, how DraftKings has influenced sports, how fantasy football and more women watch sports because they have a fantasy football team per se.
Yes.
Sports is everything right now, guys, and it's not going away. And we're going to have more situations like the Alabama basketball player because, like you said, Rob, kids are going to realize, hey, I may have a little eligibility left. Let me go get paid overseas. I mean, back in the country, right?
Yeah. Quick question for you, Matt.
Yeah.
Do I see, are you in, is that a Rhodes College blanket on a bunk bed behind you?
It is. So, like, if I kind of squeeze the line, yeah, you see that right there?
I love that. I want that blanket. Where can I get one?
I'll give you this one personally because I saved this.
No,
it was just like a memorabilia.
You can have it, Robert.
Brent, I'll send you some gear too.
Yes,
if you want some links gear. But the reality is, Rob, I'm working on a backdrop. I got some stuff ordered. We're going to get a little bit more high tech here.
Okay. Nice. Well, I'm going to tell you, Brendan, Matt's got a degree in broadcast journalism.
I know.
Up in Des Moines when he went to Drake. He was a basketball manager. Matt at 6'3", Brendan 6'4". We have the tallest lineup of any show. John Hartwell in the process of driving from Monroe, Louisiana to Fairhope, Alabama.
Is this his final move? I mean, in terms of is he going back and forth a few more times?
They're still moving stuff back and forth just to get ahead of the movers. But he's going to try to join us if he can. And I know he's a pro, and if he doesn't have a signal, when you get down into L.A., there is sometimes no interweb.
Well, I wanted to talk about gambling with you, Matt, because I don't know if you have. I am not a gambler, just because simply I'm not good at it, and I don't care. I work too damn hard
to give it away.
Every damn dollar I get, I give it away. I think if you're a hard worker, I think you have a hard time with gambling. But anyways, I've never been one to do it. I go to Vegas with friends, and I don't gamble. I just not my thing. And so, but I wanted to for the show last week because everyone's on Call Sheet. This is not a promotion, by the way.
Yeah,
it's cool. Call Sheet. These are different apps now. That Call Sheet is a couple. It's just basically betting on a game and it's the futures of the game, right? So and then it gives you the readout of the probabilities and scores, and you can gamble, but you can get out. So I can pull out in third.
You can cash out.
You can cash out, right? God. That just to me, as an athlete, former athlete, somebody who's hungry, somebody who wants us. Gary Harris is going to join us here momentarily. Just popped in. He's getting set up, but the opportunity exists to maybe gamble or to be bad in the second, be good in the third. You know what I mean? Like it's not so like it's easier to hide it when we don't know outcomes, and you're not maybe you don't feel as bad because you're not gambling to lose, or you're not playing to lose. You're not taking a fall to lose, right? I don't know. That's crazy to me. Is that something that you?
I worry about our age group that I coach, Brendan. The 18 to 22-year-old bracket, I think, are very susceptible. Looking back at my time when I was a college student, if I'd have had access to an iPhone and I could go on the app and basically place bets, it'd have been scary. I mean, especially use your credit card, the debts you could have rung up.
Yeah,
it's very problematic.
You can do it on yourself. I mean, Pete Rose might have gone crazy.
100%.
Hey, Gary Harris, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Gary, we missed you. I had a conversation yesterday with Mary Turner, my friend who's an attorney in Tuscaloosa, and she hooked us up with Everett Hoagland. Used to be in Tuscaloosa, now in the Federal Public Defender's Office in Chattanooga, about Mr. Bediako. and the ruling by Judge Jim Roberts, the Alabama Judge of the Year. This is a good man. I mean, highly respected. And it was a random deal. So if you could talk about that case, we have the one at Baylor, and John Calipari weighed in on that, and now we got one at Alabama. Is this just the beginning? And thank you, as always, for sharing your time. Again, we missed the hell out of you last week.
Well, thanks. I mean, I don't really know what to say. I mean, I'm going back to before this happened. I mean, I used to go back and forth with people on my show, and I laughed when I heard analysts at the national level going on TV talking about how this was going to be great and this was going to, free up the student athletes who had been exploited, and nobody would be making $4 or $5 or $6 million a year, and they would police themselves, and there was no way this was going to turn into anything more than just a great opportunity for student athletes. And I was thinking to myself, this was never going to be about the local quarterback down at the local burger joint shooting a commercial for a couple $1,000s a month. I mean, this is where this was going the entire time. And if you didn't see that, or if you denied that's what this was going to be, then I don't know what to tell you, because I've been coming on this show long enough. You know how I feel about it. I'm not saying that student athletes shouldn't benefit. I think any of us feel that way, that they should have been. But to go from 55-mile-per-hour speed zone to no speed zone, and to think that this was just going to be about, guys doing an endorsement for a car dealership for a few $1,000s a month, this was always going to be pay for play. And I don't see how you could ever thought that this was going to be anything else other than what it's become. And once that door was open, and now I'm just seeing all the revisionist history that people are doing. But I say all that to get to this. I'm not a legal person at all. I don't like this system. I think it's awful. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like Charles Bediako trying to come back to play at Alabama after 2.5 years playing professional basketball in the G League. But you know what? And I'm going to say this respectfully, because if I were a coach, I'd probably be doing the same thing. Coaches are hypocrites. They say one thing when they have a microphone in front of them. We want rules. We need guardrails. We need this. But there's not a single coach out there that's worth his salt at a high level that if a donor comes in and says, Coach, I got $5 million in my pocket for you. Oh, no, I'm going to turn that down because I don't want to play in those NIL waters. No, sorry, I'm not going to take your money. Or if there's a great player that's suddenly available under the rules, that they're going to say, we're not going to take him. I mean, if it happens, I'll stand corrected. If there's a coach that says, I saw Mark Pope talking about the NCAA can choose who they want to put in the tournament, and a lot of Kentucky fans are saying, well, just don't put Alabama in the tournament if they play this guy. He's got a $20 million payroll. I think
22.
Sit this one out. Well, yeah, just sit this one out.
Yeah.
As far as the Bediako case specifically, again, if it were in my way of thinking, I wish none of these guys could come back. I mean, once you make your decision to go pro, but these are the rules that we have, or the rules that we don't have. So based on precedent, here is a guy who probably would not have left Alabama when he did, should not have left Alabama when he did, if he knew this kind of money was coming. And he never played in the NBA, but he has signed 3 NBA contracts. He's a G League player. He just played last weekend, I think, over in Birmingham. But the door has been open. So Alabama and Nate Oates feel like, and again, I'm not a fan. I'm going to be clear on this. I don't like this at all. But he's trying to make his basketball team better. He's paid to win games. This is an opportunity to get a guy in here. And this is happening. And I don't know why all of a sudden, because Alabama's trying to take one of these guys, where are all these coaches and players speaking out and AEDs when the kid from the G League signed with Baylor? Or, so I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, but I also have to be realistic in that Nate Oates is paid to win basketball games. He's trying to win a national championship. There's an opportunity for a guy who said, hey, I wish I hadn't left Alabama. I've still got eligibility left, and he's still in his 5-year window. Let's be clear on that. He played as a true freshman and a sophomore. Some of these guys are not in their 5-year window. And again, I don't want to haggle back and forth, but I'm hearing all these people now, well, you can't. Well, you know what? These guys are coming over from Europe. Auburn's got a 21-year-old freshman. They're coming over, they're playing. They're 24, they're 25, they're 26 years old. So I don't like it. But I don't see that Nate Oates is trying to pursue any avenue that others aren't already pursuing. That's just the way I see it. This is what we've got. Whether Now, if you don't like it now, that's fine. But a lot of people that are saying they don't like it now and something's got to be done, we're not saying this before we just said, hey, we're going to have college football and men's college basketball. People are saying it's like the pros. No, it's a lot better for the athletes than the pros. The pros, you're not a free agent unless they release you or you play out your contract. These guys are free agents every year or really anytime they want to be. And I'm not even getting into the college eligibility thing. I don't know, what a transcript must look like when we got guys played at 7 schools in 4 or 5 years. Do they even worry with the transcript? Or they're getting in the portal if they played for Miami or Indiana and semesters are 2 or 3 weeks into the semester now, and they're just going to hop around to what school. So it's really a joke. All of it's a joke, but I don't necessarily blame Nate Oates for trying to get this guy eligible to play.
All right, I'm going to lay something out here. In the past, when you were in college, if you were getting paid by a baseball farm team, you could come back and play football. You just couldn't play, I guess, in the sport that you were getting paid in, if I'm not mistaken.
Chris Winkie is a perfect example. There are others,
St. Paul, Minnesota native Chris Winkie was 29 when he finished at Florida State. 29 years of age, folks. So you go back and you look. I think the precedent and everything, when you look in a lawyer's office, Perry Mason, you look in there's all those legal books. It's all legal precedent. You go in there and you look up cases and you study prior cases. Then it's about, you have instructionalists. We have, Anthony Scalia, former Supreme Court justice, rest his soul, looked at the Constitution. Other people think it's a living and breathing document. Baseball is why we are in where we are. You think about guys, they go for 6 years and they go, I'm going back to college, but they go play football. But they don't go back and play baseball. Now this is weird. They were playing because of NIL. They have to say, well, when he came out, was NIL? It was 3 years ago. We had NIL. So they're going to say legally, I'm just pontificating here. They can say, well, you were not getting paid, and you were not getting paid, but now you are. I mean, it is really crazy. But I think that's the precedent that they're looking at, Matt Dean.
Well, I don't. Listen. If he's ruled ineligible, he's ruled ineligible. Nothing I can do about it. I mean, I don't care. I honestly, I don't care one way or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, if you play Saturday night and they come back and later say, and Alabama wins the game, they're still gonna take that win. So yeah, there's no guarantee that he's gonna play. But I'm just saying, my point's the bigger picture. For people acting like they're upset that this is happening, what did you expect? That's what I've been saying the whole time. Once the genie's out of the bottle, I've said on your show, Rob, it's only a matter of time before an established NBA player or an established NFL player that washed out. Maybe it's an NFL quarterback on a rookie contract who never played much, and he decides he wants to go back to college and he's got eligibility left.
Yeah.
This is what we've opened this up to. Yeah. And, I will say this for the NCAA. People are saying, grow a pair and all this kind of stuff. Well, can't do it now. I mean, you strip them of all their authority. I mean, so I guess they're doing the best that they can. And maybe they are responsible for this. Maybe if they'd have got out in front of this, although I have always said, if 15 years ago, this is where we were always headed with this. And the reason I say that is, even if 15, 20 years ago, you had the NCAA said, hey, we want to get out, we want to put something in revenue share or this. Somewhere along the line, if a kid was making $200,000, there was going to be somebody in his ear saying, you deserve a lot more than that. You should be making a lot more than that. And they would have pushed the envelope. This was always where this was going. So I'm not here to argue whether Charles Bediako should be eligible or not. Not out of my wheelhouse. Yeah. But I am saying that the fact that we're here and now people are acting like they're upset that we're here is a joke to me.
Yeah.
This is where this was headed from the time we said, hey, we're going to start paying these guys NIL. And some of these schools, Texas Tech, Indiana, Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, that have benefited from it. I really kind of appreciate the stance that Texas Tech with Cody Campbell has taken. When they were talking about revenue share, well, yeah, we'll pay that, but we're not going to stop paying players. we want to win. We're going to still pay NIL. And you had some ADs running around saying, well, this is going to give us some guardrails. And, so what? You're paying $20.5 million rev share. As long as you're allowed to pay these guys, people are going to pay them because they want to win. And now people see what can happen to programs that aren't traditional winners in football and men's basketball. They've got a chance. And so for the blue blood programs, whether it's Kentucky in basketball or Alabama in football, this probably is not ideal because all the advantages that they had pre-NIL and pre-portal are gone. So they're trying to adjust to those. So again, I don't know what's going to happen with the guy. I assume, based on what Oates told the Field of 68 podcast last night, that they're going to play him on Saturday night, which I agree with. And I'll tell you why. We were going back and forth about this in the TV station yesterday. Some of those, my student interns were saying, well, they better not play him. Of course they're going to play him. You don't put this in motion like this. And then if you sit him out, it looks like, well, maybe you're not sure he should play. Of course, they're all in now. They've gone all in with Charles Bediako. They're going to play the guy on Saturday night, and they're going to see what happens next week in that hearing.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, what about the agents? I think we missed the agents. The Jimmy Sexton. Well, how about Jimmy Sexton? I'm just kidding, but the opportunity. I talked all of it. It creates such an opportunity to, like what Gary was saying. The $200,000, you're worth more than that. Somebody is that voice in their ear, and that somebody is wanting to make a little bit of a cut. They are making a lot more than the average agent, if I'm correct. I don't know that Rob has better, I think 7% to 12% or something, but the opportunity is crazy. I feel like the agents, we could at least start there. No?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, they're the ones pushing this. Listen, as I've said before too on my show, probably on here as well, there's a lot of smart people, and I don't know if John's still listening to us or not, but a lot of these ADs, school presidents, trustees, board of regents, all this, but everyone has been leveraged by the parents, the agents, the uncles, the kids themselves, as I said, the player. I mean, they've gotten bullied, so to speak, and there's not anything they can do about it. But no, there's, and again, I've given up on, well, somebody needs to do something. Well, who's somebody and what are they going to do? I've been saying, I've given up on it. This is the system that we have. And as long as it sustains itself, it's going to continue. So yeah, there's always going to be people wanting more and more and more and more and more. And you don't think that they're going to pay this. Again, I remember people saying, well, they'll never pay a quarterback $2 million. $2 million is a bargain now.
Yeah.
You're talking about Bediako, but look at the situation at Duke with their quarterback. Just signed a new contract. And Miami realizes, hey, we don't have a quarterback for next year. Or some of these schools do. So the deal that was put together for him, mind-boggling. I'm reading $10 million. I'm reading scholarship for the sister. I'm reading, country club memberships. I'm reading all of this stuff. And there's no end to it. So again, my point is, if you said this was what it was going to be and you're happy about it, that's fine. But for all of the national analysts who sat up there and said this was going to be, this would never come to this, and it never would be this, and it was going to be, reason, and the market would level off. And I think you said this, Rob. The market always levels off. Well, when's it going to level off? Okay, you're the financial guy. This would level off and it would adjust itself. Yeah, it's adjusted itself. What, we're going to start paying $12 million next year for a quarterback? I mean, I don't see it ending. And the answer always is, for people who want to prop this stuff up, is, well, the ratings are higher than they've ever been. More people are. Yeah, they are. It's still great entertainment. There's still drama. But does that mean it's healthy necessarily? No. I don't think just high ratings mean it's necessarily healthy. So all this stuff that people predicted about how it was going to level off and it was going to police itself, I'll ask you, Rob, when's that going to happen?
Well, markets do level off once enough people get burned. And we're getting close to that when you're pumping $4, $5, $6 million, like the quarterback from Duke who's leaving after he signed a contract. You cannot do that. I've had contracts, your head's on a chopping block, okay? You leave after 1 year on a 5-year deal, you owe 80% of the upfront money you were given within 60 business days. No questions asked. It's not even up for debate. It's like passing the Series 7. You got to get a 72, which means out of 250 questions, you got to get 181 of them right or whatever. It doesn't, there's no gray area. You can't get a 69.9. What we've done is the virus opened up so many doors. I tell you, the guy that threw a fit, had a temper tantrum, was Justin Fields, quarterback, who was it from Kennesaw, Georgia, signed with Georgia, couldn't beat out Jake Fromm, threw a fit, and they gave him eligibility immediately to go to Ohio State.
Right.
We have got to quit caving. I've got kids, 4 of them. When you start caving to your kids, you're nothing but I almost said it, an enabler, okay? You can't do it. Now, here's where we're going. I like what Kelly Leak is, a smart guy. He said powers that be are allowing this to explode, and in chaos, they will fix it. I think sometimes it's like when you have a controlled burn and you light fire to wipe out the other one. I think they know what's going to happen, and they're going, see, we told you, but we had to let it play out. That's what markets do. Go back in the last 60 years. Every time
that makes some sense there, Rob. That that's kind of my feeling. You said it in a more financial terms, but I do feel like it's going to sustain itself until it can't. Like you said, it blows up, and I guess that is where we're at now. It just has to blow. And another thing, and you guys can speak to this. I mean, I'm a little passionate about this because I'm no legal scholar. I'm not a person that studies this the way some people do, but I just heard a lot of smart people say that this would never be what it was about. And this is where it was headed from day. This was a pay for play the minute they opened up. It was never going to be again about, guys picking up $2 or $3 grand a month, promoting some product on social media. But here's the thing too, the educational aspect, like we talked about, this is a joke. I'm sorry. You can't tell me that if these young men and women were being asked to be regular students, that you could be eligible doing what they're doing. I mean,
no way.
It's sometimes 2 or 3 schools in a year, and something else too. That's gonna. What about all the guys that went in the portal in football that didn't get a team? What about that? There's a lot of them in there. They overvalue themselves, and now they don't have a school or a team. And what about all the high school kids that are going to start getting bumped because of the per pool out of for basketball out of Europe and the pros, and in college football, giving these guys, letting them play until they're 25 and 26 years, 27 years old. The Finley, the quarterback, now what's he on his seventh? So there's going to be residual too. And all of these people that are happy now about the opportunity to make money. And then something y'all might have talked about. I think I might have heard you say something about gambling.
We're talking about
when you're not in the big money schools and you're not a high NIL guy, you're probably jealous and you're wanting to get paid. How easy is it to reach out to these guys at the lower level schools and say, listen, I'm not asking you to throw a game. I'm just asking you, if you're over under 13.5 points tonight and you get to 11 points, you got to tell coach you got a tight hamstring. I mean, we know about the ones that have been exposed. What about the ones that are doing it and we don't know about it?
I just blow it in the second quarter.
So, I mean, the whole thing to some degree is just becoming rotten. But you know what? The TV ratings are good. So it's all one big happy family.
And this
is going to be WWF before it's going to be wrestling. I think.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's a joke. I mean, the NCAA has no balls. They're feckless and spineless. They have given up. They've ceded. They've abdicated. They're acquiescing and capitulating to everything that is being asked for. Matt, I'm going to tell you something. Talk about student athletes. Division 1, 2, 3. Again, it doesn't matter. But I was out at a Christmas party my friend Tripp and Margaret Mongers go to every year, some of my best and oldest friends. And Tim Deaton's always there. Tim played college football at Rhodes College with Bill Lansden. And those guys, Gary, we're all the same age. They all get together. I mean, they're all still very close. And that was D3. Jan Cowart, my friend, great architect, lives down in Fairhope. He's from over in the Black Belt in Selma. Great architect and does sports architecture all over the country.
Good football player.
Yeah, 4-year walk-on. My dad's hero, architecture, 4-year starter. He said, we had a reunion of the 83 Auburn team down on the field at the Mercer game. And he was on like Thursday before that game. He goes, with the way the portal is today, if we did something like that, there might be 300 or 400 guys there. Like, what you hear for a semester? He goes, but the guys that I fought all this, went through this, are the closest friends in my life. We're godparents. We're in each other's weddings and all. And I think about my friend Wesley Britt, who played at Alabama. You get curveballs. The kid's Wesley's room was orange and blue growing up in Coleman, Alabama. Auburn fan since birth. 2 weeks before signing date, hey, we don't have a spot for you. He goes to Alabama. It worked out. It worked out. 5 years in the NFL. God dang it, sometimes you're going to get kicked in the swimsuit area, Matt Dean.
Yeah.
You got things go wrong in a game, coach. What do you tell your players? Hey, quit?
Well, the first thing I would say today is I've been on this show with Gary for several years now, a lot of respect, and he's always spot on eligibility. So first thing I would do is I'd make Gary Harris the eligibility czar, and we're going to we're going to make it 5 years. If you blow out your knee, we'll give you the 6th. We're going to be very consistent. Secondly, I'm going to change the calendar. Week 0, now everybody's freaking playing.
Right.
I'm going to keep the conference championships because I think there's too much money and too much debate. And then on January 1, I'm going to play two games, semifinals. All right. I'm also going to 16 because we don't need buys.
Yeah.
And then on January 8th or 9th, I have the championship. And then 48 hours later, I open the portal. So you can't be surfing the portal while the playoffs are going on. And then after that, if you're unfortunate enough to be in the title game, yeah, you got to scramble a little bit, but you just played in the title game. But we got to fix eligibility. We got to fix the calendar. Here's another thing I learned recently that's just crazy. Correct. The high school kids, the exploitation of these Asians that don't need certification. I know someone personally that has an agency that they are getting 20% from a kid, and this kid now has access to their training facilities, their trainers. So they're providing like this whole amount of services. The kid's not even played it down in college football. It's amazing what's going on, and we don't talk about it. We can't have any guardrails on it. I'm beginning to think it's better off if I have an uncle that has my best interest because maybe they're not taking 20% or whatever the number is.
Right.
It's madness. And you know what? The Alabama student athlete, here's the thing. There's no more amateurism. So if this kid's got eligibility left and Gary Harris says he's got eligibility, he can come back and freaking play and for money. That's simple, in my opinion. That's where I'm at with this whole stuff.
Yeah, I agree with a lot Matt said there. And something else, too, that's getting lost in this, I think, is just the traditional structure of what you go to college for. And, again, I hate to be that guy because I'm not. Listen, I want everybody to do as well as they can in life. We're all trying to do that. But this idea that what does this do for these young men and women that we grew up at a time where, you went to college to better yourself, or even if you didn't go to college, you worked understanding that you're working toward a goal of financial stability on the back end. Now you've got, you said, starting high school. Let's be honest, it's starting high school. Yeah. Well, how do these people adjust if they're paid these millions of dollars when they're 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old? Then they don't make it in the pros. They don't. Yeah, I guess, most of them will have a degree because it seems like you get, it's diploma mills now is what it's become. But at the same time, how do you adjust to going out into the real world and suddenly having to work a job where hopefully you take care of your money? Because I think that they're going to be warped into thinking life is easy, and it's not. And we're not teaching them the traditional structure of how you work toward a goal. They're getting all this money. Many of them are going to be done with sports when they're 23 or 24 years old. Good luck trying to get them excited about working a job for $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
Matt,
hey, listen,
Gary. That's not the way the system is supposed to work. This is not what college athletics is supposed to be. I'm sorry. It's not the design. And Barry banging on the window.
Time to go.
Barry Sanderson is Wimp. No, Wimp's on the beach, isn't he?
Well, Wimp moved back to Tuscaloosa, but he doesn't come into the studio.
Does he not have one of the great names in all of sports? Winifred E. Wimp Sanderson. Of course, my grandfather's name was Greenfield, and his brother's name was Cadwallader. You take your pick.
Yeah, but I'll wrap it up with this. I just think that, again, we went from having a speed limit to just, go as fast as you can go
I know.
Overnight. And it's just everything's out of whack, in my opinion. So we're having to deal with this. But I don't want people acting like they're shocked by this, because you shouldn't be shocked, is my point. And again, I think it's only a matter of time. Charles Bediako might have played in the G League. You might have some guys that played, AA baseball, whatever it is. But you're going to have it's coming. You're going to have an NFL player who was on a rookie deal, gets released, and argues, I've got eligibility left. And like Matt said, maybe once you got eligibility, you should come back. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with any of it, but I know this is not the end. And Rob, I hope you're right. I hope at some point once it blows up, then we can start over and we can put some rules in place, because there are none now, or the ones that are there don't really matter.
Yeah, and use common sense. Eligibilities are Gary Harris. Tied 100.9.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Gary.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Matt, here's the problem. I know people that are managers or over people at work, and before they go to work in the morning, their phone is filled with texts of all these people's excuses why they can't get their ass to work.
Yeah.
Okay, that is where this is going to lead to. These people will be unemployable. Okay, Brendan.
I just want to say that I as much as I'm 52 next month, and I agree with everything everyone's saying. Yes, 52 next month. Nice, shocking look, Matt Dean. Thank you so much for that. Yes, 52. Just using a lot of Botox. But like, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I raise her alone. I full-time dad, and I love it. But looking ahead, right? Because we're all dads. I'm more of I'm always looking at the future, what it's going to bring. And we are talking about AI, and we're talking about the history of college. We're talking all these things. It's a bigger conversation, but I really, really feel like that, like, college athletics and athletics as a whole is always indicative of what's going on in our social environment.
Absolutely.
And what's happening in our world is changing. Our world is changing at a rapid pace. And for everyone doesn't know, the next 5 years is going to feel like the last 50 years in technology, right? With AI and everything that's going on, our tech is going to boom in the next 5 years like the last 50. So we're going to see a shift in everything. And I think this is also a part of it, because there's not going to be a lot of jobs. All of those things are changing. So these kids are going to have to change, and they don't know what the hell's going on either. So they're scared too. Yeah. So a lot of these things are I think a little bit more psychologically driven, and I think everyone's wondering. So everyone's trying to make hay today,
Well, they are. It's always darkest before dawn. Remember some of the toughest times you've been through in your life. What gets you through them is remembering how you fought through previous battles. And nobody's perfect. I mean, my kids, thank God, they're all financially independent. All four, teach children how to work. And what's happening is, of course, if we were 19 and someone offered us $1 million, we'd be all over it. But sometimes too much of a good thing isn't a great thing. You ever work in a pizza stand or hot dog deal? You eat hot dogs every night for the first week, and then you can't stand hot dogs.
No, I haven't done that, Rob.
Well, I did. I worked at the pizza stand with Doc Spreckelmeyer at Tim McCarver Stadium. The first 3 or 4 nights, I ate pizza, and the beer thing was next to us. After the first 4 nights, they took the beer thing away from us, and all we could do was eat pizza, and that got old. Look, I think where we're going, we better figure it out real soon. Great discussion today. John Hartwell had a bad connection. He's a pro quality control, and we'll get him back on next week. He's moving right now. Landers Ford, Memphis.com, Poplar and Houston Levy. Also the new location there at Mount Moriah and 240, Matt, the old Dobbs Ford location. Yes. We all grew up with them. They're back. Landers Ford, Memphis, open every day of the week except Sunday. Ask for GM Brad Bellamy, the best people, car, truck, and SUV business. Get out there and see them. Okay. Hey, they're right down the street from our good friends at Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Filson, Barber, SDS. They got all your boots, gear, everything you need. Get out there, HewlettandDunn.com. They ship anywhere. Rumble Boxing, how you fight, how you live. And also, HempForPros.com. You got aches and pains, you can't sleep. Get these gummies. They absolutely work. Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least. Great show today for executive producer Rob Browne. I'm Brendan Martin. It's Rob Browne saying, have a great day, everybody. Bundle up. You're going to need to.
See you, Matt Dean.
See you. You guys. Good, Brendan.